So, that Venom movie is still a thing, because someone high up the ladder at Sony didn't get the memo about Amy Pascal. Pretty much from the moment it was announced, I've been saying this project would be a disaster, that all the warning signs were there, and after the rushed-out, pathetic teaser trailer and the woefully underwhelming official trailer, this one is... yeah, it still looks pretty bad. I feel confident in saying the third time was not the charm, but let's take a look at it anyway. One thing this trailer managed to correct from the previous two is actually letting us see a fair bit of Venom this time. So why don't we just skip over all these shots of generic Tom Hardy action thriller movie and get to what we've been dreading/waiting for. We get a better look at the symbiotes than we've had previously, and I am not sold on the CG at all. A lot of it looks cartoony, which you might be able to get away with if this thing wasn't trying to be all dark and edgy. Speaking of which, oh, good lord. Dude, just use a sock next time. Jesus. Yeah, they're definitely playing up the horror element with the symbiotes, which is not necessarily a bad way to go, but viewed in isolation, a couple of these shots have a creepy sexual vibe to them that I'm pretty sure was not intentional. And don't even get me started on Venom's tongue. Did they want it to look that phallic? Did they? I actually chuckled the first time I watched this part before I realized I wasn't supposed to. The symbiote is sticking Eddie Brock to a wall, and the framing is so wide that we see his whole body getting tossed around like a crash test dummy, which came off as unintentionally funny to me. It's like that sequence in the previous trailer where he's flailing around in midair and the symbiote attaches him to a motorcycle, and it just looked awkward and comical. Same thing here. If they're trying to inject some physical humor into the movie, I'm not against that, but it doesn't seem to match the tone they're going for. Here's another red flag. Eddie has been horrifically injured somehow. Too bad they made it look like his leg is made of rubber. And the symbiote repairs his body in seconds. It couldn't do that in the comics, at least before I stopped reading them, so they might be giving Venom some new or different powers here, which I don't like. If you're Marvel Studios, you can kind of get away with that, because by now we trust that if they make changes to a character, they're not going to be egregious changes, they'll be done for a good reason, and they're still going to be respectful to who the character is, reference Scarlet Witch. But Sony has a bad history of changing things that don't need to be changed just for the hell of it, and throwing proper storytelling out the window in the process. Sorry, but I'm not giving them an allowance on this one. We get our first full shot of Venom in 3 trailers. They seem to have worked on the CG here, but I don't like the face. It looks like some weird demonic smiley face emoji or something. It doesn't look inaccurate to the comics, I guess, but this might have been another situation like Psylocke's costume in X-Men Apocalypse where it just didn't translate well. Venom's listing all the parts of this guy that he's going to snack on, and... okay, Venom in the comics back in the day was fond of telling Spider-Man that he was going to eat his brains, but when he said that, it was just something to put the fear of God in Spider-Man. He never literally tried to eat Peter Parker's brain as far as I know. Here it looks like he's gonna straight up cannibalize this man, which really feels like they're going too far in the wrong direction. Dark for a good reason is okay, but dark just for the sake of dark is usually not a good thing. The world has enough superheroes. Well, that's interesting, because superhero movies, at least the ones from Marvel Studios, are making money hand over fist right now. So do you really think going in the opposite direction is a great idea? Going super dark didn't work out so well for DC, remember? If you wanted to use this as a marketing gimmick, maybe you should have waited until superhero fatigue had set in and moviegoers were looking for a change of pace, rather than releasing this movie at a time when superhero films that don't get oppressively dark and aren't afraid to have fun with themselves are one of the most popular forms of media in the world. Nice one, Sony. Behind the 8 ball, as usual. Eddie's saying the power isn't completely awful, so he's starting to get drawn in by the symbiote, starting to like what it can do for him. In the comics, the symbiote twisted Eddie's thoughts around and corrupted him, but at the same time he was hopelessly addicted to it and the power that it gave him. So, yeah, that feels like something Eddie Brock would say. But here's the thing. A lot of that was born out of a mutual hatred for Spider-Man. That's why he embraced the symbiote in the first place. They both hated Spider-Man, who is not in the movie. If you're wondering how you do a Venom origin story without Spider-Man, well, you can't. Not without making significant changes to the story and the character, and most likely butchering both. More action scenes, the symbiote's starting to go into business for itself and Eddie's just along for the ride, some of the Life Foundation symbiotes forming weapons with their suits, and I've always been a sucker for that stuff, so I like that. But is this Venom here? Is that Venom or is it Riot? I'm honestly not sure. And this is another problem. In the comics, the Life Foundation symbiotes were all different colors. They had distinct looks. They were easy to tell apart. Here, all the symbiotes in the trailer look the same, right down to the color scheme. Color is your friend, Sony. I shouldn't be unable to tell if this is the main character or not. And then the big money shot of the trailer. You might think a video game cutscene got spliced in there by accident, but no, that's the movie. I guess the CG budget ran out before they finished rendering this one. And again, if you couldn't make out Tom Hardy and Riz Ahmed, it would be downright impossible to tell which symbiote is which. They look f***ing identical. Why are they all the same color? You couldn't differentiate them just a little bit so we could tell them apart at least? And then this. I would just like to state for the record that some screenwriter was paid money to write the line, "turd in the wind." That line was then signed off on, filmed, and edited into the movie. Just let that sink in. And ZOMG, the half Eddie, half Venom face, it looks just like that famous comic panel, whoop-de-woo. But why is it in this context? When he does this, it should be a big moment, like when he's confronting a major character in the film, not some random guy in a quickie mart done for no reason. Call me a nitpicker if you want, but this part to me feels like something that was shot just for the trailer. And that's a pet peeve of mine, so doing this is a real quick way to get under my skin. And there you have it. It's a better trailer than the first two, but that's not saying much. There are one or two things here that don't look that bad, but overall it seems totally confused. A lot of the CG is pretty unimpressive. It looks like the budget was on the small side. I have zero faith that they're going to get the story right, and they don't even have Spider-Man, so they're going to have to make major changes to the origin, which is a surefire way to piss a lot of fans off. And look, I want to see Venom in a movie, I do, but I want to see the character set up, introduced the right way, and done justice in a Spider-Man movie first, and then spun out into his own thing. This has all the earmarks of an ill-conceived cash-in, and with Amy Pascal's fingerprints all over it, would you expect anything else? Sorry, Amy, but I'm not falling for your dog and pony show. I've been saying from day one that this movie was gonna suck, and you have done nothing to convince me otherwise. But what do you guys think? Let me know down below. And while you're at it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I talk movies, TV, trailers, comics, and more, and contrary to what some people may believe, I actually don't hate everything. Really, I don't. So make sure you're subscribed, share the video around, and smash that bell to be notified when new videos get uploaded. Until next time, over. Out.